All right, we have a Monday Night Football doubleheader, if you will, and the second leg of that, sort of, it's like 8:30 and 8. I don't know if you can call that like a doubleheader, but it's the Falcons and the Raiders. The Falcons are going to try to get right after dropping 4 straight, and when you thought that was bad, the Raiders, they have dropped 9 straight. Aiden O'Connell is questionable, so could it be Desmond Ridder time? We don't know. Atlanta, 5.5-point favorites on the road, and we are going to dive in, get some picks, storylines, everything you need to know for this game on Monday night. Jacqueline D'Agostino alongside Jeremy St. Louis and his pen that's going pretty rogue. Douzable, Mike Renner. Gentlemen, there was once a world we were talking about this Falcons team leading the division, and they have dropped 4 straight. Kirko Chains has not looked very good with the way that the Bucs are playing, just dropping a 40-burger. We just talked about it at the top of the show. Is there a world where you can see this Falcons team potentially surpassing the Bucs and getting to the top of the NFC South, Liché?
I don't see it, Jacqueline.
Okay.
We talked about this last week, right? They've allowed the Tampa Bay Bucs to essentially walk them down. They had a 3-game lead in this division while the Bucs were still injured and battered and beat up. And now the Bucs are playing with the utmost confidence, right? Liam Cohen has done an amazing job in regards to using the personnel on that team. But going back to Kirko Chains and this Falcons team, you talked about it, Jacqueline. They've lost 4 straight. He has 8 interceptions and 0 passing touchdowns in that span. Like, that is not why they brought Kirko Chains in. They brought him in because they thought he was the missing piece to elevate this team to potentially win the NFC South. And it's been the total opposite the last 4 weeks of the season. A lot of people were saying, should they go to Michael Penix Jr.? I was one of those guys, right? Because Michael Penix Jr. with his mobility, and it doesn't seem at times that Kirk Cousins is healthy enough because they had him in the pistol set. And for people that don't know what that is, that's in shotgun with a running back behind you instead of up under center. Kirk Cousins has always been one of the best play-action pass quarterbacks in the league. And to effectively do that, you have to be under center. Now, they did that last week versus Minnesota. In the first drive, it looked amazing. But then he went back to making some questionable decisions with the football, not taking care of it. 2 interceptions versus the old team versus the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't see a scenario where this Falcon team rights the ship and chase down this Bucs team because the Bucs are playing with utmost confidence right now. And their schedule's a lot easier than the Falcons going down the stretch.
Yeah, they both have fairly easy schedules, but I'll say even if they do, and I don't see the world either, as Liché mentioned, even if they do, you saw what they look like against playoff teams the last 4 weeks, and it was flat out overmatched. So even if they manage to sneak in, this is still a failed season because you signed Kirko Chains to win a Super Bowl, right? To be competitive for a Super Bowl. And they aren't even close right now to being competitive for a Super Bowl.
So do you think, getting with the Kirk Cousins situation, do you think is that play calling? Is that scheme? Is that just him at his age coming off the injury? Why is he struggling so much?
It's his arm strength. It is his age coming off the injury. You see it. The arm, if you've watched him over the course of his career, it is a far cry from what he was in his prime. And you just see defenses really squeezing the middle of the football field because he can't attack outside the numbers. He can't tack over the top. He has the 2nd lowest big-time throw rate, according to PFF, of any quarterback in the NFL. When you don't have that aspect, you better be darn near perfect. You can't make the boneheaded decisions that he's made game in and game out. So I think that combination is just not winning football, and the arm ain't coming back anytime soon. It's just not, unfortunately.
Yeah, to me, it's a combination of the two, but it's leaning more towards the play of Kirk Cousins because we saw them actually put him under center last week. And if you know anything about Zach Robinson, comes from the Sean McVay tree. He wants to be up under center and run play action pass. Like, that's where Sean McVay kills defenses. So that's the tree that Zach Robinson has come from. And it almost is like that Kirk Cousins, because of the Achilles injury, maybe isn't as comfortable taking those drop steps from under center in the play action pass game. So that's why they put him in the pistol set. I talked about it last week. They got him up under center more, and it looked good in that first 15 plays. But after that, it was a far cry from what we have seen from this Zach Robinson offense, and even Kirko Chains going back to his past. So I think Kirk is not healthy, right? Zach Robinson is trying to help him out with some of the play calling, but to do what Zach Robinson wants Kirk to do, he's got to be healthy enough to be up under center and take snaps.
Because the difference between under center and that pistol is that you have to fire out in the play action game from under center and then hit the back foot, which is the foot that that's how he tore his Achilles last year. So if you're not confident in that, that's going to just limit your mobility and limit your ability to operate the offense that they should be running.
So we see the most consecutive games with no passing touchdowns and 1 or more interceptions, and Kirk is right there behind Alex Smith. Despite all these quarterback issues that we're talking about with the Falcons, it seemingly feels like it's somehow worse when we're talking about the Raiders because, of course, Derek Carr Carr shut down. He's out for the season. Then we have Aiden O'Connell, who is questionable because of a knee injury. So it could be Desmond Ridder. Mike, how much of a difference, if any, does this make in terms of the scheme and this offense and how they're planning to,
I think it does.
the Falcons? Okay.
I think Aiden O'Connell, if out there, gives them a much better chance to win. He at least can make plays, and he attacks with the football down the football field, to his detriment at times. He's one of the most, aggressive quarterbacks and risk-averse quarterbacks in the NFL. But going to Desmond Ridder is just, he's never shown the ability to operate high-level offense at any stop that he's been to. That's why he's been to numerous stops now, 3 years into his career. So, yeah, I think it matters, but you're a Raiders team that may not necessarily be trying to win right now either way. So if you're looking to bet this game, I'm just staying away.
This is gamesmanship because Aiden O'Connell didn't practice at all this week, right? So most times you would like to see a guy at least go out there 2 days before, because Friday's kind of a tempered down practice. But since this is a Monday game, that would have been Saturday's practice for them, right? You go from Gardner Minshew to Aiden O'Connell, and now you go into Desmond Ridder. A lot of people are saying they've already have their eyes set on Shedeur Sanders. I'm not saying that teams pack it in at the end of the year, right? But again, if you're going from Aiden O'Connell to Desmond Ridder, either way, it's going to be a struggle for you. Now, the thing is, the Raiders actually do have weapons. Me and Mike were just talking about this. We talked about what Brock Bowers has been able to do, Jacoby Myers has been able to do. They have subsequent weapons on the outside to make plays, and this Falcons defense has been known to give it up in the passing game. So, Desmond Ridder, this is an opportunity for you, right, to resurrect your career. But to Mike's point, we just not have seen enough tape of him being consistent when it comes to running an offense to give you a lot of faith in what he can do.
Raiders are involved in a race at the top. Top of the draft board for 2025, but with the Giants for the #1 overall pick in the draft. Lige, to your point, what you were saying, if they end up 1 or 2, quarterback off the board, is that just the most obvious play for you at this point?
Well, I think so, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Antonio Pierce, because to his, I would say, detriment, he hasn't been able to actually have a quarterback of the future or a franchise quarterback. So it's hard as a coach to really gauge what type of coach he is when you don't have a quarterback that you can rely on to say, this is the face of our franchise. They've had a lot of bridge guys. So Antonio Pierce has gotten the most out of this team. Let's not forget, last year he had them on the brink of making the playoffs with inadequate quarterback play. And this year they go into the season again with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, who again are bridge guys. These aren't guys that are going to be the face of your franchise. So I think the Davis family should give Antonio Pierce 1 more year, maybe even 2, because when you get a rookie quarterback, you should get at least 2 years with him, because he has not been able to reset the quarterback trend in regards to having a franchise guy that they can really lean on.
To me, it's not necessarily a race for the #1 pick. It's a race for the #2, because there's 2 guys. You're going to see vastly different orders of those 2 guys depending on who you talk to in this draft. There's no clear-cut #1. You just need one if you're the Las Vegas Raiders at this point. So that means you got to get #1 or #2. If you're not in one of those spots, I think you're SOL in this year's draft.
Okay, and Mike, I know you said you're staying away from the picks, but we're going to make you do it anyways.
I know.
You got to do it. So we'll start with you, Mike. Falcons 5.5-point favorites on the road. Total sitting at 44 and a hook. I know you don't want to bet anything, but if you had to, what are you going with?
I'd probably go over, and I'd probably go Raiders. I just think 5.5's a lot for a team that's not very good in the Atlanta Falcons right now. If I'm stacking up the NFC South, I think they're the worst team in the NFC South right now. So when it's 2 bad teams, give me the team that's at home and give me the over.
I'm going to go the other way. If Kirk Cochains can't get it done versus the Raiders, and a lot of people are already assuming that they're quote-unquote tanking to get one of those top 2 spots, then he's not going to be able to get it done at all this year. This is an opportunity, right? This 3-game stretch, and you still have the Commanders to play at the Commanders down the stretch. But this is a game, the next 2 games, the Raiders and Giants. If you want to build your confidence up, we've seen teams do it in this league already. We saw the Baltimore Ravens coming off a bye week when they lost the week before. Lamar Jackson put up 5 passing touchdowns versus the Giants, right? So these next 2 weeks, this is on Kirk Cousins, right? To get that confidence back, to make everybody in that locker room believe that you can be the guy that maybe helps them go on a run to sneak into the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons -5.5. Don't feel confident about it, right? I don't feel confident in either one of these teams. I just think one team is already looking towards the draft.
Okay, I feel like both of you guys are a little iffy, but going different ways. We'll see what happens with the Raiders and the Falcons. Lige, Mike, we certainly appreciate it. Giving us picks, going over the storylines and everything for one of those Monday Night Football games. And make sure you stay locked into CBS Sports HQ. We have got you covered all season long. News, highlights, scores, everything you need. It is all here, and it is all for free.